Port Adelaide is there's one spot left in the top 6, and so far in this group, we've got Port Adelaide, Richmond, St Kilda, Sydney, West Coast, and the Western Bulldogs.
Ooh, it's a good list, isn't
So
it?
there's a few there that are going to be pushing for top 6. Let's start with Port Adelaide. They've picked up some players.
Yeah, they have. Jason Horne-Francis, the number one,
Yep.
which they'd be very happy with. They'll be very happy with Junior Rioli from the West Coast Eagles as well, with Robbie Gray retiring and ending his
One of my favourite players.
Oh, me too. He was a front and square specialist, an absolute star of the game. And so Junior Rioli comes in to replace.
He's also one
Robbie
of my favourite players.
Yeah, there you go.
Disappointed he left the Eagles, but anyway.
But that's the reality now, and he'll fill that role perfectly in the forward half of the ground for the Port Adelaide Footy Club. Look, the prelim in 2021 to not making finals in 2022. Now, I'm not sure whether it's gone under the radar, but it just hasn't had the same, I suppose, negative approach to it as to what some other clubs have sort of had come at them off poor performances when they performed quite well the year before.
0-5 for memory last year.
They were.
I thought Ken Hinkley did a great job holding it together. I mean, he was battling for his job in many ways. He's got an army.
He is always battling for his job.
He's got an army of people over there that, even when he wins the flag, won't be happy.
I think he likes that. I think he likes people with some coming at him. So he then just switches into that mode. I'm going to prove you wrong and get the job done.
When you do have those and you fight back, ultimately, normally you fail because it's so hard trying to recover from a bad start. But they are looking they're looking a side that could generate some finals chances.
The health of their tools is the key here. We know they've got the star young players that we've talked about for the last 3 or 4 years, and they will continue to get
Rosie
better.
went to a new level.
In the midfield he did, and Ollie Wines and what he does. But it is about Charlie Dixon, I think, and whether he can perform well in 22 outings or 23 outings for the club. Alir in the back half as well. And Scott Lycett in the ruck. So there's your 3, I think, that help to shape where this club can go in 2023.
What about the other 2 younger tools? Is it time for them to jump up?
Todd Marshall being one of those, I thought improved this year. So I think he'll get even better with Charlie Dixon down in that half of the ground. So his opponent won't be as big or as strong, and I think he'll be able to control that matchup a little bit better. Sam Powell-Pepper, I thought, had a very good year. He was their best player when they were going terrible at 0-5, and he was able to maintain that throughout the majority of the season. Jeremy Finlayson showed a little bit as well,
terrific
up
season.
forward and in the ruck when he had to fill that role. So, but yeah, look, for me, I think they'll finish mid-table again.
Yep.
Yes, they get Jason Horne-Francis. Yes, they get Junior Rioli. They lose Carl Amon, their runner on the outside. Robbie Gray's a big loss, I think, for them in their team, and I think they'll sit in the middle of the ladder.
So Port Adelaide for middle 6. Let's go to the Tigers.
Let's go to what a team.
Let's go to the Tigers.
The way they responded was sensational.
They picked up 3 magnificent midfielders.
They have
2 from the Giants and 1 from their own ranks in Dustin Martin.
Yeah, they'll get Dusty back to Rando and Hopper. Now, I wrestled with this, and I know I know Gerard where I've got in my top 6 at the moment, and I'm thinking
you've only got 1 spot left.
Well, I'm thinking I might have to make 2 adjustments off the back of this right at the end. And those 2 adjustments might be Carlton and Freo, who I've got in the top 6 at the moment.
Yep.
But when I was going through this over the last 24 hours, I'm thinking, how can I leave Richmond really out of the top 6 because of the recruits that they've got, and as you said, Dusty coming back and playing footy as well. 13 wins this year. They finished 7th, and I think with what
lost
Tom Lynch
a couple
did,
of close ones too.
they did. But with what Shai Bolton went to a level that we just absolutely loved watching, and Jaden Short was the same. Rioli off half back. Gibcus is one of their now key defenders and a really smart young player in the competition. I can't see them not making the top 6.
Okay, so who have we got in the top 6 so far?
In the top 6 so far, we have got Carlton, Fremantle, Geelong, Brisbane, Melbourne, and Sydney. So I'm going to go with Geelong, Brisbane, Melbourne, and Sydney. I'm going to move Carlton and Freo to the mid.
Mid-6.
The mid-6.
So Carlton's out and Freo's out.
Yeah.
So you've now got...
Richmond will come in.
Right.
And I've got another one to come in shortly as well after the analysis.
So far you've got Geelong, Brisbane, Melbourne, Sydney, Richmond.
Richmond.
And
I'll have one
other.
more. One other will come in.
I've got a funny feeling who it might be. So the Tigers go to middle 6. We talked about the Saints last night with Lenny Hayes. Where are they going to kick off there?
It was a good conversation with Lenny last night. I thought it was, he set the scene really well on their improvement. They've lost some key players. When you look at Ryder, Hanbury, Geary, and Dean Kent in some ways, just from more an experienced type play, but the top three in particular and what they offered the footy club. I know Hanbury didn't play, but still that experience that's not there. So 11 wins, dropped away poorly. So look, Jack Sinclair, what a star. But we go to Ross Lyon and we go, okay, what effect will Ross Lyon have, Lenny Hayes have, Robert Harvey and Corey Enright? They're the four mains. We know Goddard's doing a development role and we'll see that. They've got some young players that showed a little bit last year. Windhager was exciting in his 18 games that he did play.
Wanganeen Metalera.
Yeah, another one who got a taste of it. So you just hope that these youngsters that got a taste of it and a reasonable run, that they come back, as we say always, come back flying at the start of pre-season to really build so that they can stay in the team in 2023.
I haven't got their list with me, but Jack Hayes he's a small ruckman, but he had an amazing debut, then he got injured. Now that Paddy Ryder's not there, they look a tiny bit short in the ruck, do they not?
Well, they look a little bit short in the ruck. So Marshall will play a role, and he's a good player. Don't get me wrong there. So he'll do that well. I think they like him up forward at times as well.
So who's going to be the backup ruckman?
Well, it has to be Hayes. I think you could nearly play King as a forward, just a ruckman in the forward 50, and allow Marshall to protect himself in terms of how much running he's doing in the game.
Last year, put him in the ruck when he was having a bit of a quiet patch, but I don't think they want his knees anywhere near the ruck.
No, but a boundary throw-in up forward I think is not going to affect, jumping in the middle of the ground will, but not up forward like that. And I think their forward half's okay, their midfield's okay. It's just that they've got Jack Sinclair off the half back. It's just whether their talls down back can, get the job done next year.
Okay, so you've got them as a mid.
A mid.
And we're moving on from the Saints to last year's grand finalists, Sydney.
Yeah, the best group of 23 and under in the competition by a long way. What they were able to do last year was awesome. When you go Warner, Goulden, McDonald, McCartan, McLean, Stevens, Rowbottom, you just keep naming these
Rowbottom
guys.
third and the best and fairest. It was great recognition, wasn't it?
Well, across their best and fairest, even Goulden was seventh, I think. So or sixth or seventh. So that was a huge shift for John Longmire in the way that his team was set up. Obviously, Mills winning it, which I thought was great as well. And look, they had an awesome year last year. They celebrated the biggest moment in footy history just about with Buddy kicking 1,000 goals and the atmosphere around that.
Yep.
And look, poor in the grand final.
Yep.
But overall, and we spoke to John Longmire about this a couple of weeks ago, he's pleased with the way that they improved as a team. And I think it exceeded his expectations. So now, with that, can they stand up again? I think they definitely can.
Top six?
Top six.
Top six. So that rounds out the top six. No, it doesn't. One spot to go. You already nominated them. Let's move on to the West Coast Eagles, who are coming off probably their worst season under Simo.
Yeah, they lose Junior Rioli. We've spoken about him going to Port Adelaide. Jaden Hunt comes from Melbourne, so they'll get a bit of speed and run from Jaden Hunt. And look, 2 wins. I never thought I'd say that about a West Coast Eagles team that had some significant players still in their lineup, and you go, wow, they had 2 wins. So I think for West Coast, for me last year, they had a lot of players off 2021 coming into 2022 who had a lot of operations and a lot of injuries. They didn't get pre-seasons under their belt. They chased their tail all year, and I think they protected that a little bit. So, the senior players went out there, but I think as a club, they would have had a mentality of, we need to get through clean, so our off-season is not riddled with operations again, so that they can actually step into the 2022-23 pre-season healthy to give themselves the best chance. And Oscar Allen was probably the one of the main players that was absent last year. Now, I know he's young, but he's an excellent player in their side. So Josh Kennedy retires. They lose 40, 50 goals there. Can Oscar Allen jump up and replace that?
Well, let's hope he plays in that position. He is able to settle down, because when they had the lot, he became the fill-in.
He was.
And it was,
Sally's,
set up back in the ruck, carrying a bit of an injury.
Yep.
I thought it weighed him down a fair bit. He's one of the most exciting players in the competition, but we just haven't seen it for 12 months.
So they had 42 players make an appearance this year, West Coast. I think they'd like to make that around 35 or 36 maximum next year. So they'll be bottom 6.
Bottom 6 for the West Coast Eagles, building off the draft. And would be interested to see whether they pick up the young midfielder over there, whose name has escaped me, that they're pretty keen on. Is it like Gibney or something along those lines?
Not too sure. We'll get that.
Gibney. There it is.
There it is.
Gibney it is.
Yes, it is. So, and look, I think Elliot Yeo's the other one that we just got to keep a watch on.
Yeah.
because he's a good player and he needs to recapture his form.
So Tom Barras,
Yes.
big year last. I mean, the pressure on the All-Australian selectors to get him in was immense, and he had a fantastic year. And he's one of the rare people who have won a best and fairest playing fullback, Jono.
Yeah, exactly.
Rarely happens when the side's at the top of the ladder.
That's it.
But he had a fantastic year.
He was, and we know the McGovern-Barras combination is as strong as any in the competition when they are going well. But as I said, this is one team though, West Coast. We spoke about Essendon potentially jumping out of a bottom six draw. I think West Coast could seriously jump out of a bottom six draw, especially if they get their confidence up early at home. There's probably 8 of 11 wins at home that they can have next year.
A lot of people said they're old and it's time to rebuild. But after Geelong win the flag, all of that sort of local and old school wisdom is out the window. But they're going to need their best players, their biggest names, to play well.
They need to have a huge season next year. Because they were all disappointing this year, and they all had reasons for that. But those reasons are now gone. They start again, and they're the key players, and there's probably about 8 of them, and we know who they are. They need to step up next year to make this team bounce. I've got them in a bottom 6, but they could be a mid-6, bottom part of the 8 if they get their season right with the draw they've got.
A little bit of positive thoughts for Jono for the West Coast Eagles. Okay, here's a side you know a little bit about, the Western Bulldogs. Can you slide them into the top 6?
Well, with who they've lost, they lost Cordy down back, a bit of a utility as well in terms in the end of the way he was playing his footy. Shaki, Lockie Hunter with his run on the wing, and Josh Dunkley's the big one. Losing a best and fairest winner to the Brisbane Lions is a significant loss. Liam Jones coming in and Rory Lobb. So structurally, that's good for the Bulldogs. They needed that. They needed a fullback who, of Liam Jones's quality, I think, who's turned in, and I know he's had 12 months off, but, hopefully he comes back with the same desire and ability to play at the level he did for the Blues in that position. And Rory Lobb, who I think will help Tim English, who went to another level this year and played some excellent footy, and will certainly give some assistance in the forward half of the ground. So overall, with the Bulldogs, they didn't meet the expectations of 2022. Coming off another grand final, they didn't sort of hit the heights that with that expectation around them. And you sort of go to, okay, Ken O'Brien, he needs to lift, Tim O'Brien. Dale and Daniel, I think, need to get better again, especially with their consistent ball use. Very good players, but they need to become excellent players in this competition if the Bulldogs to become a top 4 team. Waitman was good, needs to go to another level again. And Vandermeer, who had his injuries, can he come back and produce that speed and dynamic play that really helps set the Bulldogs up? You're not concerned about losing 2 guns out of the midfield? No, I'm not, because the midfield of the Bulldogs is strong regardless. So when you've got the names of Liberatore, McRae, Bontempelli and Smith as your 4, then outside the square, the Bulldogs have got enough class to be able to cover that. So Riley West may get an opportunity to step maybe up a little bit. He played well as a forward, might get some opportunity with some midfield minutes next year. He'll be able to do that. Ed Richards went to another level. And then you've got Sam Darcy and Ugle-Hagan, who are the other 2 keys, and we haven't mentioned Norton yet, but the other 2 keys that look, well, Sam Darcy, I think, should settle down back. So he's centre half back? I think so. Okay. Because then you've got Rory Lobb. I think he played his best footy there. I know he had a good quarter against Hawthorn down forward, but I think he was better suited as a key defender. And Ugle-Hagan played well this year, and can he use that to really propel, a big year in 2023? You've got so many good chess pieces there. You've got to sort of share your A-graders around. Now, Darcy's not an A-grader because he's just a young bloke, but you can't stick all the tools in the forward line. So he looks, of the lot of them, the best sort of suited, in my view, to play across that centre-half back position for a period of time. Now, whether that's 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, who knows? Well, it helps with the recruitment of Liam Jones. So you've got Liam Jones in behind him who will structure him up. You've then got maybe Gardner playing a role that suits him as well as he went this year, Gardner. And I think he's exceeded the expectations of what the Bulldogs thought they would get from a Gardner, and he's proven as a player, and he did fight it out undermanned at times, or undersized at times. So I think that sort of helps with Liam Jones in, helps Darcy at centre half back, and structurally allows the Bulldogs to set up a little bit better defensively. Jono, I've been riding this guy for a couple of years, and he's hard to miss, but I think Tim English could challenge for the All-Australian ruck next year. I agree with that. I think his best last year was as good as anyone's best, and I think he should set his sights on, okay,
I can be the number one ruckman in this competition.
His ability to get outside of the contest was a lot better. His marking around the ground was a lot better. He's finally, I think, at a comfortable size where he feels like that he actually can compete against the best from a physicality point of view, and he's not sort of pushed off the ball as often as he was the previous years, especially under the high ball, which he's got to sit under the high ball a fair bit. He was a lot better in that this year, and I agree. His movement around the ground and his ball use and his kicking ability is excellent. So I agree. I think he'll really push up and really start to challenge Max Gawn in terms of
who was the All-Australian ruckman, and he didn't have his best year, Max, but he was. I mean, the ruck depth last year wasn't as significant as it has been, but Max was All-Australian.
And he can kick goals, Tim English, as well. So I think that adds.
This is where the lob situation I assume lob is they're going to interchange him in the ruck. So look, could be very potent. Exciting times for all those sides. But we move on. Let's just finalise it though. The top 6, you've got Geelong, Brisbane, Melbourne, Sydney, and Richmond, and now the Western Bulldogs.
That's right.
So outside of the top 6,
yes,
you've got Carlton,
Fremantle,
and Collingwood.
I have got those 3. Then Port Adelaide,
so
Kilda, and Gold Coast.
One of those is not going to make the finals.
Exactly right.
That's why it's tough at the top.
That's tough. And look, you look at the teams that played finals this year, and we put 4 in there automatically, I think, in Geelong, Brisbane, Melbourne, and Sydney. So, yeah, I guess it's tough to knock a couple out, of course, but ultimately it's tough to get in. And that's why the competition, I think, the last couple of years has been awesome, is because we go as deep as 13 or 14 teams that can actually play finals footy.
Well, Port Adelaide could certainly play finals footy.
Yeah, no question. No question with that. But they've got to get their season together. And there will be, and as I said, West Coast or Essendon potentially could jump out of that bottom 6 with a draw. That if they get their confidence up like Collingwood did and it suits them, they win a couple of close games, all of a sudden they're picking up 3 or 4 extra wins on the year that pushes them into calculations. That's why it does go so deep, and that's why we love, and that's why it's so tough.
You are the master of the prediction. That's why we got you in to do the job. If I was to say one thing, I reckon...
Who would you replace in that?
I'd be surprised if Collingwood aren't playing top 6 footy.
Okay.
So they are the ones for me that... and I'd be surprised if Carlton aren't.
Exactly.
And you know what? I'd be surprised if Fremantle aren't there as well.
So that's the hard part. Who are you replacing?
No, you're doing the tips, Johnno. You're doing the predictions. Earlier today,